Welcome back and thanks for tuning in. I had hoped to get a little bit further with this project this week, but work got in the way and there's a bunch of stuff I needed to do with that. And the other thing is, there's an awful lot of options and styles for table saw fences, and I kept going back and forth on how I wanted to proceed with this. There are a great many of them. Some of them are quite complicated and not worth the time and effort to put together. Gears and fancy locking mechanisms and all that sort of stuff are just, well, too time consuming, and they don't really give me anything extra. So they're not going to be something that would make this function better or more reliable. So I've picked not something horribly simple, but something simple enough that it won't take too long to put together. And again, the most important thing, of course, is they'll give me relatively easy setup, not like the angle aluminum I'm using currently. And also, once it is locked in place, and I'm going to use a clamp to do so, it will be solid, give me reliable and repeatable cuts, and of course, obviously, nice and straight and all that sort of stuff. So that said, what I'm going to do this week is finish off the rails so that they no longer interfere with my crosscut sled. To that end, obviously I need to remove some material from this. So what I'm going to do here is I took a utility knife, I put a little nick in each of the rails on the outside dimensions, and I'm going to take this over to the workbench now, and I'm going to use a set square and a nice dark pen to make sure that that is very obvious. I don't want to remove more material than I need to, and it's not very easy to spot the little nicks that I put in it. The other thing I need, of course, is the depth. So I'm going to use a caliper here. I'm going to mark the depth, and then I'm going to transfer that to the set square as well. And then, as I said, I'm going to mark that nice and dark so that it is really obvious. And once I remove the black, I will know that I have, set it up as close as I can. Now, the other thing I like to do often, and sometimes it bites me, is I will reduce the amount that I want to remove by a little bit and then creep up on it. And as long as I remember to do that, I don't really have much of a problem. It's sometimes that I forget to do that and I end up with a piece that is not quite the right dimension. That can be quite a bit of a pain, but again, because it is something that has more material on it than I need, I can always just remove it later. So anyway, that's the plan. I'm going to mark these out nice and dark, and then use the caliper to set the set square and mark the depth of that as well. Now, there's a number of ways I could take this off. I could just use a handsaw, I could use a chisel, I could use the bandsaw. I decided to go with a lazy approach, which is I'm going to use the table saw. Now that both these rails are off, my crosscut sled is free to operate, and I'm going to set the depth of the blade using this again because it's already set, right? So I don't have to worry about it. Technically, I didn't even need to mark this part on the notch itself, but like I said, I want to have a nice visual for this as well, so it just helped. It is kind of like a crutch, I guess, or something that will make sure that when you're doing it, you see it being removed. It just looks better that way than hoping that you set it up properly. So yeah, that's all there is to it, really. This is just, like I said, a simple matter of doing this. I'm not going to show you both rails, and then also not going to show you putting these back on. It's very straightforward, and again, one thing I want to specify is I'm not tightening them down too much. I don't want to end up compressing the holes and changing things. Once these go on permanently, then I'll tighten them down nice and solid, and that way I don't have to worry, again, like I said, about altering this too much. So there you go, that's the notch. And nice and dark and easy to see. And I'm going to move this over the saw now. And I'm going to change the camera angle because I found from this side it is a bit dark. So I've flipped around to the other side. And it's nice and bright now. I do need at some point to increase the amount of shop light I have. It's not such a big deal when I'm just working because I just position the table saw where I want it to be, but sometimes when I'm trying to record and get the right angles and everything, where I can place the camera is not as set as, well, I mean, it fits on the joists up above, so I have specific positions that I can record from. At some point, of course, I will probably work on that as well, but for the moment, this is all that really I have, and it's good enough. So I'm going to put this on here, and as you can see, it's very easy to see, and I will start the cut by being a little shy of where I want it to, and then I will gradually inch towards it. I like this method. It's very visual. As soon as all the black ink is gone, you've removed enough material. The only downside of it is it does leave a little bit of a ribbed pattern on the bottom. As if when I flip this over and I put it back on the saw, the bottom of the notch will have a bit of a ribbed pattern to it. Obviously, you can get rid of that by using a chisel or sandpaper or anything else. It's just an extra step. I know there are blades that will cut that without leaving that pattern, but I didn't feel like buying one, of course, and it is not that much of an inconvenience. So I'm going to finish removing the material on the inside here, and just as we get to the final bit there, you're going to see what I'm talking about. There is another way of removing that material, at least a little bit of it anyway, and that is moving it back into position, and you can see it right there now, just at the top. Moving it so it's right over the blade, and then just moving it back and forth a bit. It does remove most of it. There's still going to be a little bit there, but when I finally get around to sanding this all down and putting a finishing coat on it and everything else, I'll worry about that then, and you know, for some reason I guess I'll make it look pretty. It doesn't really matter, of course, because this is a functional item. So I'm going to do the rest of this in 2 times speed. I tried 4 times speed, but it just looked choppy. This is much nicer, much smoother. I'm going to try using this more regularly instead of 4 times. Like I said, it does make it look a little, like I said, too fast. But anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think of that. So this is pretty much the whole thing. I am going to put these back on, test them out. As it turns out, I did need to make one slight more of a cut. As you can see, there's a bit of black there. I didn't quite get it all off, and it was a simple matter, of course, of just putting it back on and removing that material. As you can see, now it's gone. This is the back end I wanted to show you because I haven't shown you this rail yet, and there you go. Works perfectly fine. Thanks very much for watching. Leave comments, let me know what you think about everything, and I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.